Welcome to Product Rising. I'm Elizabeth Ames, the executive producer of Product Rising and the former CEO of Women in Product. At Product Rising, we focus on providing meaningful information and insightful conversations about how to succeed in product and advance your career. If you find this information helpful, please follow us and recommend us to others. For more information about Women in Product, please visit womenpm.org or join our community. Links are provided in the show notes. Today's episode is the sixth interview in our series, The Visibility Equation. This series was created and is hosted by Surbhi Gupta. With nearly 2 decades of experience driving product innovation across big tech and startups, Surbhi brings a wonderful blend of strategy, clarity, and human-centered leadership to this series. Our guest in this episode is Nik Sharma. Nik is CEO of Sharma Brands, a full-service digital consultancy that launches and scales consumer brands like Rare Beauty, Feastables, Jolie, 8 Sleep, Diageo, Taco Bell, and more. Prior to Sharma Brands, Nik co-founded Character, a branded content studio helping your favorite brands acquire new customers efficiently. Recognized in Forbes 30 Under 30, Nik knew early on that he wanted to be involved in building and promoting brands on the internet, and that has been his unrelenting pursuit for the past 13 years. And with that, I'll turn it over to Surbhi and Nik.
Hi, Nik. Welcome to the Visibility Question. My core belief in going through this journey is that visibility is not about being loud, it's about being remembered. Nik has helped countless brands to get visibility, and today we know visibility is not just about brands, but also it could be for your own career. So I would like to get started by knowing Nik a bit more. Nik, over to you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. Nice to be here. My name is Nik, and I run a growth marketing agency in New York called Sharma Brands. We specialize in bringing consumer brands to market. Usually getting involved at the ideation stage, helping them with creative brand design, go-to-market strategy, positioning, merchandising, messaging, building out offers, all of the ads you see on Instagram, Facebook, sometimes billboards and TV. And then essentially helping them figure out, how do you continue to cut through the noise and grab attention and convert that attention into revenue.
Awesome. Nik, how do you define visibility? What's the visibility equation in your words? What are its components?
So, visibility for me, I default to like attention. How can you grab attention? How can you cut through the noise? I think that there's a couple ways to think about it. One is, you can be very original and be yourself and do, what you feel is the only thing that you want to put out. And so for a lot of times, or sometimes that helps cut through and brings a really authentic story. But visibility, for me, my background is in performance marketing. And so for me, visibility is all about testing a bunch of stuff and figuring out what actually cuts through the noise, what gets the click, and what gets somebody to, make a higher intent move in their journey of becoming a customer of yours or learning about what you're selling. And so for me, visibility is, how can you test into it? How can you figure it out? How can you try a bunch of things? We're now living in an era where we basically have all of this opportunity to grab attention and gain visibility. And it's just a matter of understanding, what is good content on those platforms maybe that helps you get that visibility. And the people who are, relentless about testing things and trying to figure out how to crack that code, they can crack that code and they reap the rewards of it. But the opportunity is there, and I think now more than ever, visibility is an opportunity that everybody can take advantage of.
Very well said. So tell us briefly how you got started into it. What drew you to be in this position where you are?
Yeah, for me, I've always been fascinated by marketing in general, the how of people, what gets people to buy, how do you position something in a way that gets them excited to buy it? Um, how do you make it convenient for them? Um, and then you pair sort of that kind of the art piece with the science of a lot of the stuff we do, whether it's, media buying, running campaigns across different performance marketing channels, optimizing the website, building out email funnels, all of that kind of stuff we do as well. But there is this art and science to it that I've always been drawn to on both sides. And, I'm a very creative person myself. And this was kind of this so far has been a really fun way to bring that creativity out and also just get to work with a bunch of really cool brands.
Interesting. How has visibility shaped your own career journey?
I mean, for me, visibility in the sense of myself, like I'm a very publicly visible person on the internet. Most of our clientele at my company has come through the visibility I have on the internet, whether it's my podcast, my newsletter, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of those lending themselves to different opportunities, whether it's speaking or collaborations. But visibility is it's again it's a tool that's out there for everybody to use, and for some reason most people never use it, but it's out there, and you don't even have to be that public to get to to become visible. Sometimes it's as easy as sending a cold email to somebody.
You highlighted some couple of interesting things. I have lots of follow-ups. First, when like what where did you start your journey? Let's say everybody's kind of invisible, and then you do certain things that land right, that get you the right visibility that somebody needs. So how did your journey started in building the presence?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I started in high school. I was always curious about the world of social media, of marketing, just internet culture in general. So I would say at that time I was doing things, learning about social, understanding how it worked. I was working with publishers right out of high school to help them figure out how to drive traffic to their websites and arbitrage the cost of the traffic versus how much they're making in ad revenue. Um, but I would say if you're thinking about like visible versus invisible, I was invisible pretty much all those years, learning and doing things, and kind of like building up my, street cred or reputation or whatever you call it. And then I joined an ad tech company right out of high school. I was there for about 2 years, and basically made myself or got myself to just be a part of everything, try every opportunity, join everything I could, learn everything I could. Um, that then led me to a beverage company called Hintwater, and I joined there with the task of building a direct-to-consumer business. And kind of everything that I'd learned up until then allowed me to do what I did there, which then blew up that brand. And that was probably the first time where um, something I had worked on as like blown up in a big way, and I guess created some visibility there. But yeah, I mean, for it's like what, 8 years of invisible is how you get to become visible. But yeah, I believe that to be true.
Yeah, and it is important to have a core, strong foundation before you get visible, so you have something very tangible to share. It sounds like you first built the internal visibility within the org and then you took it outside. So what triggered you or what worked when you were, okay, I'm doing good work in my company, but how the world knew about it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I always had a Twitter account that I'd used since high school. When I
Mm-hmm.
was in high school, I was working with different artists on social media, and a lot of the times I would test something using my own Twitter account, whether it was different follower tools or analytics tools or whatever. And when I was at Hint, I started to find things that worked well as within the direct consumer world, whether it was marketing or website or shipping or whatever. And I would just tweet about those things. And my company at the time had no problem with me tweeting about some of those successes. I wasn't tweeting about like hard numbers of what I was doing and exactly how I was working and anything that the company would think is proprietary. But it got me to, I remember I came to New York and I realized the guy who started Morning Brew, which is a large publication, he DM'd me and said, "Hey, let's grab a drink," because he saw I was in New York. And, he caught on to my account because of something I said in the marketing world. And that led me to become one of the first advertisers of Morning Brew. And I ended up becoming friends with all of the people on their team. And it was kind of then when I was like, wow, the more that I can just post wins online, first of all, 99% of people are going to read it and they're not going to do anything about it. So it's not like me posting a win means that I'm going to now lose something as a part of that, right? If I post something, everybody's going to benefit. There's no downside.
Hmm.
And the other great thing is people see that and now they want to connect, they want to meet up, they want to talk to me. And that's kind of how I was able to build my whole network really. Even some of my best friends in life have come from the internet. And it's all just by finding whatever I wish I knew 2 years prior about direct to consumer that I was going through or experiencing. I would just put that out on the internet so other people could benefit. And so that's kind of how I built all of that following.
Super interesting. So it's showing up and then really taking the step to show up, and then you get the right connections, friendships, and
Totally.
business opportunities. Well said. You also mentioned that many people, like the tools are available, but many people never go there and there is some hesitation at times. So what's a big myth that you would like to debunk where which people have about being getting noticed?
Well, I mean, no one gets noticed without no one gets noticed for something good without getting noticed for, five weird things before that. So, most people, they live their life thinking, I'm going to do what makes other people think the best about me. And they don't tend to put themselves first. And realize that sometimes you put yourself in uncomfortable situations or awkward situations or things that make you look weird or corny. But there's something else you're working toward on the other side that most people just don't see. So most people let that stop them, and that's what stops them from being visible. That's whether you take that in the context of putting out content on the internet, or somebody at a company internally feels like, oh no, if I do too much, it's doing too much. I don't want to do too much,
Mhm.
and you sort of like create your own limitations there. But I've always been of the mindset that I just kind of follow my gut, really. If I feel like something is a good potential idea, I try to have a good decision-making process where I factor in as many things as possible. Um, but I don't let me looking corny limit what I'm gonna do. And I think that's what I mean by the tools are all here. It's just up to like who's gonna go and use those tools or who's gonna go and take advantage of those opportunities.
So, Nick, are you saying you're not a perfectionist? You are like somebody who is confident enough and just doing is better than being super,
Yeah, I'm not a perfectionist at all, not
yeah,
by any means.
and that works better. Yeah, I think it's better to get something out of the door versus waiting for the perfect moment and you have lost that opportunity.
Totally.
Okay. Any example you want to share, any story from your journey that could motivate our
Um,
listeners?
I mean, nothing specific comes to mind. I mean, there's so many like, whether it's a different company I've started or my starting my podcast, everybody thought, oh my God, this guy's starting a podcast. That is so corny. Why is this guy starting a podcast? No one wants to hear what this guy has to say. Um, but again, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And, I even knew the first few episodes are going to be, kind of corny. I'm doing a podcast for the first time, but I knew that by the 17th episode, it'll be good. I just started putting on conferences last year. We rent out venues here, large concert venues in New York, whether it's Webster Hall or Terminal 5. And, we rent it out for the day. We bring incredible speakers. We throw in a whole conference. Again, that's something that a lot of people would probably think, oh my God, that's so corny to throw a conference and host an event and do all this. Um, but again, it's those things that like, and I'm not trying to do all this to be visible either. I'm just following and trying to do whatever I want to do. And the byproduct of that is there's so much like love or intention or excitement that goes into this conference or into the podcast or whatever, it ends up becoming visible on its own, right? So that's the other thing is I think as long as you're always kind of building toward or putting out the best possible product, it'll do its own job of getting people excited and bringing people over.
I 100% agree to that. It's also like going into your own flow zone and doing things that you like, and then others will resonate. And you don't need, as you said, everybody to resonate, but there is a big chunk of um, people with similar interests or need that would resonate. Yeah,
Totally.
makes sense. We are helping a lot of women in tech here. They struggle with self-promotion. How do you suggest they approach visibility authentically without feeling very braggy?
I mean, I don't think there should be you should never like think, am I being too braggy? I think like I always, majority of my company is women, and I make it very clear in our culture that we celebrate wins very loudly. Um, but also, I mean, equally we celebrate or not celebrate, but like analyze losses or things that go wrong.
Mhm.
But if somebody did something and it's an amazing move, whether that was hitting some KPI, shipping some product, um, achieving some number that hasn't been done before, it was helping somebody else do something greater that they haven't been able to do before. I think all these kinds of things need to be celebrated. It's really on the company culture too, to sort of like celebrate one another and set aside time to give each other flowers and appreciate one another for some of the things they do or recognize them. Um, to be honest, I don't know like how I've never worked in a large company. So for me at my company, the way I just try to do it is basically how I described it, which is like I want everybody like if somebody figures out that there's a we this one time we launched a brand for Mr. Beast and within 24 hours of launch, something was breaking on the site. Their CTO couldn't figure it out. All these developers couldn't figure it out. And one guy on my team figured it out, like a junior employee. And, I made sure that everybody knew that this guy figured it out and he was celebrated and everybody knows that he was the one who did it. And so I just think like making sure the wins are loud is a big thing. And I think in general too, a lot of people, in a world where people are so lonely, I think a lot of people also just lack nobody gets flowers for things they do. No one gets recognized or appreciation. And I think that's something that needs to like come back heavily.
Yeah, I like to associate it as a thing to be celebrated versus having any other connotation attached to it. And if somebody wants to build their visibility in the world outside their own, like their own company or the place they are working at, then they have to go step out, as you said, leveraging Twitter or a podcast or a conference. Have you seen someone or have you helped someone getting that?
Yeah, I mean, it's you can go to Twitter, search anything, and see people tweeting about it and start replying. And just by sending 5 replies, you're now in the community. And it's on you to go meet people on the platform and go find more conversations to get into. And you also can't go into these communities with zero value. You can't just be like a random person and be like, okay, I'm gonna go in and trying to learn about e-commerce on Twitter and meet people in e-commerce. It's on you to go and meet those people and bring something to the community, bring some value, bring some insights, some knowledge, some know-how. You can't just, I mean, you can just come in and lurk around, but if you just lurk around, you're invisible. So, when you're trying to get something from somebody else, they're not going to know who you are. But if you're in there, you're contributing, you're replying to people, you're engaging in conversations, you're showing that you're driving, you're giving value basically, then it creates those opportunities for synergies. But yeah, I mean, I think that all of these platforms exist. Obviously, you have to be cautious about what you're putting out and how it's not gonna, upset an employer. But for the most part, posting on LinkedIn, posting on Twitter, posting on TikTok, posting on YouTube Shorts, these are all platforms that give you so much reach. You could post a picture of a dog and you'll reach thousands of people from that picture that have never heard about your name before. And so the opportunities are there. They're not going to be there for long either. It's not it's not promised that by this time next year, the same platforms are going to work the same ways.
Mhm.
And so I think that's another thing is this opportunity is not going to be here for long.
What makes you say that?
I mean, these platforms always change.
Mm.
So at one point there was publishers I used to work with that were making $100 million a year from Facebook traffic. And then those publishers got absolutely wiped with an algorithm change.
Got
And then there was, like all of these different things. And so I just think that these opportunities that are here to put things out also don't last. And the more that people just kind of watch these opportunities come and go, um, they're just basically, it's like there's free money right here.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying that world is very dynamic. What works today may not work. The same tactics may not work, but one who is willing to show up and also create value for others rather
Totally.
being big with going with this intention, oh, I want to become visible. That generally don't work because if you're
Never
posting
going to
just to
work.
get likes and reactions, nobody is like gonna do that.
Yeah.
But if you're
No one
providing
wants to
value,
talk to
then
those people.
automatically you will automatically get all that. So well said. Also tell me people who are not marketers because most of the people who are going to listen to this are not directly into marketing. What's a scrappy hack to build visibility for someone in that persona?
I mean, I think the more you can let the work you do speak for your visibility, the less you have to worry about that. Like
Mhm.
you don't need to go produce things and create things to try to make people like you or follow you on the internet. In fact, those are some of the worst accounts that exist. The best ones are just documenting the things they're doing, sharing insights from campaigns they're running that are working. Somebody ships a product and breaks down the 10 things they did differently about this product release versus the last product release. Just things that are basically bringing people along the journey and sort of showing you the inside or giving people the inside scoop into what's going on. Like
Mhm.
I'll launch a website for David Beckham, and then I'll put a Twitter thread that talks about here are the 12 things we did differently for this website that I think are going to crush to drive more revenue versus other websites we've built in the
Mhm.
past. So kind of
Mhm.
just like giving that versus being like, hey guys, I built the David Beckham website. Come follow me. No one likes those people.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So that is more from an intention perspective, but is there any other tactical tool that someone can implement? Because there is so much noise.
Yeah,
So
I mean, for me, I've always followed just one rule in marketing, which is like figure out what gets your attention and go figure out how to crack that. So if it's podcasts, like if you're somebody that listens to podcasts, figure out how you can crack the code. Maybe it's around podcasts, maybe it's around short form video clips. You also like you don't want to do something that distracts you a lot either
right.
from whatever you're doing that's actually helping you do that. Some people let the content piece take over what gave them the opportunity to create content that's interesting, and I think that's also a mistake. But whether it's you can, I mean, everybody's got an iPhone, so set up a video, turn on the selfie camera, hit record, post it on YouTube Shorts and TikTok and see what happens. By the 17th video, you're going to have something that's starting to get some views. And by the 37th video, you might have your first one that gets, 100,000 views on it. But yeah, basically you just got to start. There's no tips, there's no playbook, there's no steps for it. It's just go on and start posting.
And keep posting. Persistence is the rule.
Yeah, persistence. Everybody drops off because the 100th post doesn't get, a million likes.
Yeah.
But there's countless examples of things where 7 years into it is when it finally takes off, or and not even small things or new things, but like people who are seasoned and experienced.
Yeah. So it's also very important to do something that somebody really enjoys so they can be
Yeah,
persistent.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you can't fake it because if you fake it, you run out of steam.
Yeah.
You're gonna get burnt out. But if you're just figuring out fun ways to document what you're doing and bring people on that journey, then it's hard to get burned out from that.
Tell me more about the podcast. You mentioned about podcast, about your podcast, and also let's say if I want to make this as world's best podcast, what should I do?
uh,
On a lighter
well,
note,
I'm
since
not
I
sure
have
about
the
that, but
expert, so why not?
yeah, but yeah, my podcast I started really all the content I put out, I try to make it very tactical. So my goal is that somebody is basically, can have a computer screen open and consume my content on the left side of the screen and then go make changes on the right side to their business. And it should make them money within 24 hours. That's always kind of the intention with any of the content I put out. So the podcast, it started as myself and another friend, Moise, who started a brand called Native. And we would go to lunch and go work out for a couple hours every weekend. And we thought we should just record our conversations. These are such fun conversations. And then slowly it evolved over to becoming more masterclass style, where I just go really deep on certain topics within e-commerce. So, if somebody wanted to learn about landing pages, there's 6 episodes they could go listen to. If they want to figure out how do you sell in retail, there's episodes you could go listen to. But all these kind of different topics, the entire goal still being like being able to listen and then action it right away.
Okay. Yeah, and this recalls me how I started podcast during pandemic. I used to talk to 2 friends. One was in Chicago, the other was in New York, and I'm here in Bay Area. We would just talk, and then we will talk about, of course, it would be on a particular topic, and then we
Mhm.
share with our friends, like, okay, oh, I learned it during this conversation. And one of my friends was, can you record it next time because I may not be able to join the call. I was like, okay. And then we were like, why don't we just record it? And we don't like editing. So what I did,
Yeah.
guys, we like talking but not editing, so our podcast is going to be really like, you know just on the fly kind of a thing, like improv conversation. I enjoy talking. I was radio talk show host as a kid, and then when I was studying in NYU, so I just get energized, and that's why I'm doing this. So I totally align with you. My second
Yeah.
part of the question, if my intention is to make it this podcast like very valuable, to really give value to the users so they find like, okay, their life has changed. Somebody who was not motivated earlier is motivated, or somebody who was inspired but didn't know where to start, so they are getting value. But in addition to that, any other pointers, because I have the DTC guy here.
The only thing I would recommend is getting a professional background set up and a professional mic setup. The mic makes all the difference.
Yeah, and then just post it. No, no,
Yeah, a lot
nothing
of
else
posting.
there.
Find every 15, 20, 30, 60-second clip that you think is interesting. Some people overthink it and they think they need to go get a fancy editor. It could be in the morning while you're, in the bathroom. You can go on your phone's app, your Photos app, clip something for 20 seconds, throw it into CapCut, put a title on it, and put it out.
So just showing up there, then there's nothing fancy required here.
Like good content always finds a way to find people. That's
Yeah.
the beauty of the content in this day and age.
Also tell me, many people go into this like, okay, in short term, they have a lot of success. They are able to build the visibility. But what is a long-term game? So how should, like, basically, I want to ask from your experience, how professionals should balance short-term visibility versus long-term visibility? Because there is always like, yeah, you can get a lot of attention, but it may not be very memorable or establish a brand that people or you would yourself care for. Any
Yeah.
lessons from your journey?
I mean, I think, there's things you can do to get a ton of followers and a bunch of visibility. Um, but you kind of have to know, first of all, you have to figure out why are you doing this? Are you in it to just make a quick buck by building out an audience and then promoting something? Are you in it to build a community over time? Are you in it to find network with other people at a much higher caliber in the world, same world of you? And sort of gives you access. For me too, like I always thought my audience is like the Disneyland Fast Pass. Any SaaS company or ad platform, I can go talk to the execs there immediately. So you have to first figure out what is your intention here. For me, the intention has always just been, I need the content to be so good so that in 20 years from now, when I have a software company, everybody thinks that they should try that, or so that 10 years from now, I have this community that's been nurtured and built for 10 years, whatever it is. But you have to figure out what you're doing and then kind of align it with that. There's people I've seen who they'll do everything to max out their audience, but then they burn a lot of bridges along the way, or it invites unnecessary problems or causes unnecessary drama. So, basically figure out what your goal is. The same way that you would like plan for, I don't know, a life decision or buying a house, you should, if you're going to go this route, you should plan for this too. and sort of write out what your goals are behind it and then kind of build backwards from there. There's people that like who have 10,000 followers who are well known within certain industries. And that's all they need, because 10,000 followers that's all they need. They don't have to do crazy things or say crazy things to go get 300,000 followers,
Yeah, even though it's like doing for fun, you get energized, but there should be a clear goal to start with, then
Yeah.
only you will make progress. It's like building a product. Can you share any story where a small visibility tweak created outsized opportunities, something that individuals can relate to?
One that comes to mind is I joined this water company, Hint, in the Bay Area when I was 20 years old. And I was kind of the joke of the company because I was 20. And, every week I used to send these 7 or 8 page updates to the exec team, basically summarizing everything that everybody within my department did or touched or completed or started. And, for me, that was an example of something that I'd come in and seen what those updates looked like before I got there. And I thought, let me just make these updates. Like, let me make these updates so easy that
Mhm.
somebody with no context into what I'm doing can fully understand everything about what I'm doing. They can see examples, they can see what our versions look like, what our ads look like, what the performance is. And, that was a small tweak that I did, just changing the update to go from half a page to 7 pages. But it was one of the most impactful things I could probably do, because those updates would get shared around like crazy across the exec team, across the board. And everybody then knew exactly what I was doing. There was no question about what is this 20-year-old kid doing in the office. They knew all 7 pages of what I was doing.
So your role here was, what was your role like?
I was the director of performance marketing and then the
Okay.
director of DTC. It was to sell this product right here, to sell cases of this water on the internet.
Okay, now I know the brand more. So see, one
Yeah.
picture is
Yeah.
thousand more than thousand rows, because I
Yeah.
I couldn't it didn't click to my mind which Hint. I initially I thought Hinge the dating app, and I was like, no, it's
No.
not Hinge. Okay, okay. So you have built visibility for yourself within DTC. What lessons transfer to people in tech?
Um, just put out something valuable, like put out something people actually are going to care about. Most people things put out are things that they care about, like the person posting cares about, but 99% of people then don't care about that.
Hmm.
So, if you go to any of my accounts on the internet, you probably won't find anything about my personal life, what I do on the weekends, what kind of music I like to listen to. Everything I put out is just value for other people. I probably go a little overboard on that. Like, there's literally some people don't even know what my company does on the internet. But at the same time, I think that I try to use my socials as like a platform to teach other people. So, I don't care that people maybe don't know what I'm doing on the weekends or in my personal life.
Maybe we can have some round in the end to know a little bit more about your life, Nick. Were there any aha moments where visibility directly led to something amazing, like a role, a partnership, or a client that otherwise wouldn't have been possible if you would have just taken a traditional route?
I mean, all of them. They've all come from unique, different stories. I got the opportunity to invest in Mr. Beast's chocolate company and then help launch that because of an investor that I knew through Twitter, who then brought me to their exec team. I would say like 85 to 90% of the things I've done have just come as a result of me posting things on the internet and becoming known for whether it's growth marketing or consumer brands or, being able to just help these brands and do it better. Um, so almost anything, I guess, that has come as a result of whatever I do has pretty much come from the internet and building community online.
Awesome. So, is Nick introvert or extrovert?
I'm a balance.
Okay.
I'm a huge extrovert when I'm out and about and I'm at events. But at the same time, I look like tonight's Friday night. I'm excited to sleep early tonight. Spend a night by myself, recharge. But tomorrow night, I'll be with friends and I'll be a huge extrovert.
The reason I asked was also in the context of building visibility because many people, if they are inherently little shy, then they are
Hmm.
like, even though I'm really good at it, I don't want to like go out because it takes the energy. And sometimes they are like the hidden gem and they are always like this so I was
Hmm.
wondering, but you are like you could balance it out. Maybe you're an ambivert, but
Yeah, I
being
mean, look,
work.
I think,
Mhm.
no one wants to get up and go outside and go talk on stages or meet people or come up with content or go film something. It's not like everybody wakes up and is so excited to do that, even the people that do it. But you either get used to it or you get left behind. And so, like this morning I woke up, I had to go film a podcast in Midtown. And of course, right before I was like, oh, I got to go film this thing, got to prep the questions, got to do this, got to do that. But I was like, you know what? If I'm not going to do it, somebody else is going to do it. So I have, I only have to lose here. So it just, for me, it always just comes down to that. Like it's always a binary thing. It's either going to happen or it's not. And then I know myself, I would
Mhm.
hate myself if I didn't do it. And at night I was thinking, damn, I should have done that. I can't believe I, skipped out on that. Or I can't believe I put that. Why? Because I was nervous, because I was a little tired, like that's pathetic.
Interesting. I have a different personality. I really
Yeah.
just do it because I like doing it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just won't do it. Of course, there are so many different things to choose from. Certain things I do, as
Hmm.
you also say, I have mentioned. And then if I, like, even if it's going to a party, sometimes like, okay, it's so far. I don't want to drive that far. And then sometimes I like, oh, I have a FOMO later on looking
Exactly.
from hearing about it from my friends. So next time, better say yes. So I think it's really saying being more of a yes person versus saying no to things, and then you see what works for you and going from there. Of course, you can't be choosing
Yeah.
everything because every yes also has to compromise something. So it is inherently saying no to
Totally.
something else. Makes sense.
Totally.
Okay. So Nick, if you have to give one key takeaway to somebody to like if somebody has to remember one thing about visibility, what would it be
I
other
would
than
say,
showing up? Let's say
yeah.
somebody's motivated to show up.
I mean, if you're motivated to show up and you feel like at the end of every day, you're putting in the best possible output of you and doing the best possible work, then you should equally feel proud of doing good work, which most people do. Like if people do good work, they tend to be proud and take that pride and then share that. So, if you do something, tell people about it. If you crack some code, if you ship some product, if you, shipped a new feature even, whatever it may be, I think people should talk more about the things that they do. I mean, if you look at social media in that same way of how we've been talking about it, it's just documenting what you're doing. And it's kind of the same thing what I'm saying here. Like when you find something that works, document it, put it on the internet, tell people about it. It doesn't even have to be the internet. Sometimes companies have internal message boards or threads and whatnot. Like just post it there. Make sure that your, the New York City Slack community knows that you created some feature that just shipped today and you're excited about it. But yeah, I think just be a little bit louder about it. If you're not going to be loud about it, no one else is, and everybody's got their own things they're worried about and thinking about. So no one's thinking about you. So if it's not on you, no one's going to do it.
Yeah, one visibility challenge for our listeners. So, one action that listeners can try this week to build their visibility is share one product learning in a team forum, or just post one insight on LinkedIn, or just reshare
Totally.
this podcast. Do something.
Yeah, even just go and comment, go
Yeah.
find 10 posts on
Yeah.
LinkedIn where somebody wrote something and you feel like you can go comment or respond to somebody else's comment and create a conversation. Um, just even just that, like even the replying to tweets is another one where it's so easy to, you don't have to be the outward person to go and start that conversation or make a post or post something provocative, but you can just respond with an opinion or, hey, I disagree. Here's why. Here's what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts on what I'm thinking? That's how I got my start on Twitter. And it was just, I was just going to see who was talking about social media marketing and I'd go respond to people.
Yeah. So, start with really low effort and high confidence where what you
Yeah.
do. What other resources you recommend someone to build their expertise let's say somebody has a core expertise and SME in an area, but also in showing up any resources other than your podcast, I'm guessing.
Hmm.
So if you want to talk about your podcast a bit here, what you talk, what you share.
Yeah, I mean, most of my podcast is growth marketing, direct to consumer. But there's a writing course actually I took. There's a few I've taken. One's called Power Writing, by Sean Puri. One is called Ship 30 for 30, which was a really good one, and one I took called Rite of Passage, which I don't think is out anymore, but was taught by this guy David Perel, who's insanely smart. And like taking those writing courses for me was like an easy way to. I mean, I was a terrible writer in school, but I write an 11-page newsletter every Sunday that goes out to 100,000 people. So taking these writing courses, if you feel like writing is intimidating, can help. Anything you think where if you feel like you're not ready for it or it's intimidating, just dive into it. Like go take a writing course, go follow other people who are maybe, if you're a product manager trying to gain visibility by sharing things online, there's a whole world of product managers in tech on Twitter that you can go follow and see, get inspired by what they're doing or how they're talking about their wins. But just dive in, don't go read books, don't go read blog posts. Don't go have meetings about how you're going to just start doing it.
Yeah, it's about doing it versus gathering too much
Totally.
info about it. Something like a lesson learned that you would recommend somebody to not do, or any risks you have taken?
Um, I mean, don't do anything that seems like a shortcut, or
Mm.
anything that you think is going to get you followers overnight. Um, you know, that's all just a bunch of baloney. Just keep putting, just like do good work and then try to find ways to talk about it.
So it's really the mindset shift that you're talking about, that don't be afraid to talk about your work. If you
Yeah,
are, if somebody is not comfortable talking about their work on their own, like what they have done, they can talk about it from a team's perspective to start with. Even that could be a good strategy to make other people shine, so that people always have gratitude, and when the time comes they will make you shine, and overall
totally.
you are building the entire team's visibility. I think
Totally.
that could be not a shortcut, but a way to just overcome some of the inertia if somebody has.
Totally. 100%.
Okay, getting to know a little bit about Nick behind the scenes. You were always interested in learning about how some products sell better, do that like reverse kind of engineering. What else motivated you to build this as your mainstream career?
Um, Honestly, I um probably a bad answer, but like I've just always kind of followed things that I find fun and wherever I can find enjoyment in learning or diving deep. And honestly, that's pretty much how I got to this spot. Just following this path of fun within this world of commerce and marketing. And you combine that with obviously discipline and just putting in those 10,000 hours, not taking the shortcuts. Um, but yeah, I mean, for me, try to find, I always just try to find ways to do cool things. Like, I think we've done a lot of work with different celebrities helping launch brands like that. We've worked with the likes of a Taco Bell, but also Patron. And so for me, I'm always just kind of chasing something that I find interesting or fun or something where I might learn something new. Like we worked with, these large alcohol companies. I learned an entire alcohol advertising that I'd never known before. So yeah.
Okay, seems like a lot of fun stuff here. Any interesting story or like a change in the brand? Like somebody or a professional, as you have worked with celebrities, you have pivoted their whole persona by the marketing. Any fun stories?
Yeah, I mean, with celebrities, it's all about like working around them. So it's whether it's um Gwen Stefani or whether it's David Beckham, it's like you're constantly trying to figure out how do you work around them to make sure that you can bring out a product that relates to what the audience is that they've built, but at the same time, do it in a way that's exciting and able to cut through the noise. And so for us, it's less about like trying to figure out how we can change their messaging and more trying to figure out how we can integrate how they work and their style of everything really into the brand. So it feels very seamless and kind of like one-to-one.
So do you also guide them on how should they position themselves, or it's about they have something and then you try to build a messaging around that?
Yeah, they usually have a vision for what they want, and then we help them execute that vision.
If you could go back in time, what advice will you give to younger self about building visibility?
Um, Always have a good story in your back pocket. Never show up anywhere without a good story to tell.
Any suggestions on how our listeners can start building, or any advice on how our listeners can start crafting their story?
Um, well, I mean, a story doesn't have to be a story about you. It could just be a funny story that when you go and meet somebody, you've got something funny to say. Most people just default to, oh, where do you live? Oh, where do you work? Oh, nice. Do you like that neighbor? Yeah, I used to live in that neighborhood. That's majority of conversations, I feel like, in tech. But if you've got a fun story to tell, you can make somebody laugh, get them interested. It brings them into kind of your world a little bit. It always makes people remember you differently.
I think we missed hearing Nick's story. Maybe now we can
I
hear
don't have
that.
not enough.
Hey Nick, this is Surbhi. Nice to meet you. So what's your like elevator pitch?
I don't have an elevator pitch. Just depending on the context I'm in. Again, I always try to figure out, how do I like what can I do that's going to be helpful or drive value or something of that sort. So, for me, it's always different. I might come in with some funny story or something, but I'm always just trying to figure out for me, it's always like, could I even just help connect two people? If I can connect two people, I get the credit forever for whatever they end up doing.
Yeah, yeah. But you definitely put emphasis on the humor part of on the humor in this story so that it's
Totally.
memorable and lighthearted.
Yeah.
Okay. In brand building, other than humor, is there any other ingredient that you recommend folks to use?
Um, Yeah, I mean, just be authentic to like you. Like if you're not funny, you're not going to be funny if you try, I mean, unless you try a lot and get practice it like a skill. So if you're somebody that tends to overshare, you should overshare. If you're somebody who likes to write things out, you should use platforms where you write. If you're better just to record a video and you're not really a writer, you could just do that and just do that. Um, but I think just be authentic to yourself and you end up figuring out based on what works and what doesn't, how to kind of shape it from there. But I wouldn't say to start any specific way. Just kind of start and let it shape you.
And let's say somebody has enough visibility, like someone like you, and who has maybe 200,000 followers. There would be like there are people in on all different categories, I would say, some who would resonate with the content, some may have different opinions, maybe even tough feedback or maybe negative feedback. How do you handle all that? Because it's like, yeah, building all positive visibility, but then it also comes with this negative kind of visibility. Any suggestions on navigating that?
I mean, no, I mean, it's going to happen. You just have to deal with it. There's no real answer there. It's inevitable that it's going to come unless you're just talking to people who really like you. But if you're going to try to grow and go past, just the people who like you, you're going to be met with negative things. In fact, I get excited when I see negative tweets in my replies or an email from somebody who thinks that I'm stupid, because that means I've gotten outside of the initial audience. And that means that it's about to blow up.
Yeah, so it's again having that mindset and dealing with it on a case by case basis.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. Thanks, Nick. This was really fun learning more about your journey, visibility, and some of the tips that you shared. I think will be really helpful for the audience.
amazing.
Thank you so much for taking time today to chat. I
Of
enjoyed.
course.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for having me.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is an original production of Women in Product. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Women in Product YouTube channel. Leave us a review so that others can discover us, or share this episode with others. Original music provided by Jimmy Hahn.